The mattress had never been washed, not once. It was full of things that moved. The straw, compacted over months and years, grew darker and smellier. It wasn't just the odor of old bedding. It was the unmistakable scent of decay, of things being slowly absorbed into the fabric of life itself. The straw was home to a variety of creatures, lice, fleas and bedbugs, all of them thriving in the warmth of the bed. They were there every night, a constant presence, accepted and expected. The fabric of medieval sleep was woven with them. These creatures were not hidden. They were not whispered about in hushed tones. In fact, they were so common that people didn't speak of them as pests, but as simple companions of the night. People knew the feeling of a flea bite or the itch of lice in their hair. It was part of life. The idea of a clean, sterile mattress was a concept that didn't even exist. This wasn't seen as anything strange or alarming. This was simply how sleep happened. No one was disgusted by it. It was understood as a natural condition, as inevitable as the rising of the sun each morning. The bed itself, after all, was more than just a place to rest. It was a space where people gathered their warmth and sleep, and where the presence of bugs was part of the familiar texture of life. Medieval people might have known that they shared their bed with a colony of fleas, but that was just the way it was. The idea of sleep being a clean, private, and isolated experience was something that would take centuries to develop. Over time, the straw inside these mattresses would become compacted, losing its softness. The mattress would darken as sweat, dirt, and oils from the body sank into it. The layers of straw, wool, and other materials would begin to rot, forming a dense, uncomfortable surface to sleep on. But even so, this was not seen as anything abnormal. It was simply the nature of things. You didn't ask for comfort. You only asked for a place to rest. The straw was often mixed with things like dried bracken, wool scraps, and sometimes even animal fur. These elements were cheap, readily available, and gave the mattress a certain texture. They also allowed the bedding to hold onto warmth during the cold nights. But none of it was washed. The idea of washing such a mattress was impractical, if not entirely impossible. What would you wash it with? How could you clean such a large, heavy structure made from cheap materials? Instead, it was simply replaced once it became so compressed that it was unusable. And even then, there wasn't much to be done. The new mattress would soon develop the same problem. The bugs, too, were a given. They were so common that medieval medical texts didn't try to remove them entirely. They simply recommended managing them, sprinkling herbs like lavender, pennyroyal, or wormwood into the mattress to try to keep them at bay. There were even records of people trying to make their own insect repellent sprays, usually made from a mixture of herbs steeped in water or vinegar. But these efforts were always temporary at best. The fleas would return, the lice would crawl, and the bedbugs would find their way back into the cracks. This was not a crisis. It was simply life. Even the idea of privacy in sleep, something that many modern people take for granted, was entirely absent. People shared their beds without hesitation, not because they had to, but because it was normal. A family of 5 might sleep in one bed, all wrapped in layers of wool and linen, their bodies pressed together for warmth and safety. A peasant household, with no heating other than the body heat of its inhabitants, would need to share the bed to keep warm. A single person alone in such a bed would have felt strange, like something was missing. For the medieval peasant, this shared intimacy in sleep was a matter of survival, not something to be embarrassed by. And yet, despite all of this, despite the uncomfortable mattresses, the ever-present fleas, the shared beds, there was a quiet, unspoken resilience. People didn't complain. They didn't see their sleep as an ordeal. It was simply the condition of life. The discomforts were part of the package, and they were accepted without hesitation. A scratch here, a shift there. It was just the cost of a bed. You slept, and you woke up in the morning, and you went about your life. Life didn't stop because of lice. But there is something else here too, something quieter. To understand it, we need to step inside the room itself. The door creaks open, and you step inside. The room is small, its dimensions modest, even cramped by modern standards. The ceiling is low, the beams darkened with smoke from the hearth, and the tallow candles that burn long into the night. The walls are thick, built from rough-hewn stone or wattle and daub, a mixture of woven branches and clay that holds the weight of centuries. The plaster has cracked in places, where dampness has seeped through from the cold stone behind it. There is no glass, not even in the wealthiest of homes, and the only barrier between the inside and the outside world is a set of sturdy wooden shutters, each one heavy with age. They swing on hinges that creak when moved, offering a fragile shield from the weather and the seasons. The floor is uneven. Large stone flags or beaten earth cover most of the room, but the space closest to the bed is covered in rushes. They've been spread carefully, though not entirely evenly, across the floor to keep the cold stone from touching bare feet. The rushes are mixed with dried herbs, their scent faint but unmistakable. Sweet woodruff, lavender, and meadowsweet. These herbs, chosen not for their fragrance, but for their ability to mask the dampness and repel the insects that would otherwise infest the room, release their essence when disturbed. You can almost feel them in the air. The rushes themselves are not particularly clean. They trap moisture and decay over time, adding to the heavy atmosphere of the room. The light is dim, the room still and dark, save for the flicker of tallow candles that burn at the far corner. There are no windows with glass panes, no fancy curtains to block out the view. Instead, a few slats of wood make up the shutters, shutting out the dark, except when the wind moves them. They let in a faint amount of natural light, but only when the sky is open enough to let it through. More often, the room is lit only by the warm, flickering glow of the tallow candles. Their smoky flame casting shadows on the walls, growing large and dark as the evening wears on. The air is thick with the scent of animal fat, burnt slowly, releasing its heavy, acrid aroma, a smell familiar to those who live here. The temperature in the room fluctuates. When the fire is burning brightly in the hearth, the room has an almost oppressive warmth, a heaviness in the air. But as the fire begins to fade and the night wears on, the room grows colder, the stone walls leaching away the heat that was once gathered. The shutters are often closed tightly by the time evening falls, blocking out the chill of the night air. But even so, the cold is there. It lingers just outside the room, and every now and then it finds its way in through a crack or a gap. The walls are a silent witness to the years that have passed in this space. The timbers, the stones, the layers of plaster, they hold the stories of countless lives. Each mark on the walls is a testament to those who have spent their nights here, to the daily struggles of medieval life. This room has seen it all. The furniture is simple too, nothing more than a few stools and a small table against one wall, a chest for storage. The pieces of furniture are functional, not decorative. The only thing that truly stands out is the bed itself, sitting squarely in the center of the room. The bed takes up most of the space. It is large, heavy, and solid, with a wooden frame supported by ropes stretched tightly across the posts. The bed's heavy linen sheets lie on a mattress stuffed with straw, wool scraps, and dried bracken. It is not a soft bed, but it is sturdy, built to last. The weight of the mattress, thick with layers, presses down on the ropes, keeping them taut, and the linen covers rustle with every movement. The bed is more than a place to sleep. It is where warmth gathers, where the night will unfold. The smell of the damp straw mattress is already present, mixed with the herbs scattered across the floor. It isn't unpleasant, but it is rich and full, the scent of human presence, not just in the body, but in the space. The space feels full, even when it is empty. There is nothing superfluous in the room, nothing that could be considered extraneous. It is a room for living, for sleeping, for resting from the day's labors. It is intimate, not in the modern sense of privacy, but in the sense of closeness that the medieval world knew well. The room is small and self-contained, each item serving its function without distraction. The cold of the stone still creeps into the room, but the presence of the people who live here fills it in ways that the walls, the floor, and the furniture cannot. It is the people who bring this room to life. They are the ones who make the bed warm, who bring the smells of their days with them. The scent of the food they've eaten, the damp of their clothes, the sweat of their labor. They are the ones who move through this space, night after night, making it their own. And as the room fills with darkness, the familiar scent of the tallow candle rises, soft and smoky, wrapping itself around the room like a blanket. The room is not a place for comfort. It is a place for living. It is not beautiful, and it does not shine with opulence, but it is a room full of life. The walls hold the weight of all those who have slept here, all those who have known the warmth of its embrace, the stillness of its darkened corners. It is a space that exists in quiet permanence, tucked away from the world outside, and it is a room that has always been here, just as it will always remain. It was a small room. It smelled of the people who lived in it. That was all. The bed stands at the heart of the room, its solid frame commanding attention despite the simplicity of the space. Its wooden posts, dark and worn by years of use, rise from the stone floor, supporting ropes that stretch tightly across the frame. The ropes are knotted, and over time, they have become somewhat slack, but they still hold the mattress in place, providing a base for the layers that will follow. The bed is not delicate, nor does it offer the lightness of modern sleeping arrangements. It is heavy, solid, built for years of use, and yet it feels almost like a part of the room itself, as though it too has been here for generations. The mattress, or palliasse, lies directly atop the ropes. It is no soft feather bed, but rather a large, rough sack filled with straw. Over time, the straw has compacted, settling into a dense, uncomfortable layer. The palliasse is a simple thing, a sturdy, serviceable place to sleep, but it is not meant for luxury. It is filled with materials that are both readily available and inexpensive. The straw, though cheap, serves a purpose. It provides a buffer against the cold stone floor, offering a bit of comfort and warmth, but it is far from perfect. The straw compresses with every passing night, and after a few months, it has flattened so much that it barely offers any support at all. The mattress grows heavier as the straw sinks, the texture growing stiffer and less pliable. The feeling of lying on the palliasse is strange. It's not like the soft mattresses people might imagine today. There's a dryness to the straw that makes it rustle, a slight crunching noise when you move. The straw inside the mattress shifts with every adjustment, every turn. The feeling is not unpleasant, but it is a reminder of the simplicity and often discomfort of medieval sleep. The mattress is both a comfort and a source of discomfort, a place to rest, but never one to offer the softness people today would expect. The scent of straw mingles with the herbs from the rushes on the floor, the faint, earthy smell of the mattress reminding you that this is not a place for indulgence. It's a place for sleep, for survival, for making it through another night. If the person who sleeps here has some wealth, they might have an additional layer atop the palliasse, a fine feather mattress, soft and luxurious by comparison. But this is reserved for those with a bit more comfort. It is rare among the poor, who make do with their basic straw-filled mattress, and it's the wealthier merchants and landowners who sleep atop the feathers, wrapped in more than one layer of linen or wool. Even the wealthiest people still face the same inevitable truth. The mattress, no matter how fine, will still harbour bugs. The wealthier would have their beds made by servants, adding new layers of straw to their palliasse when it became too compacted. But for most, the bed is simply a place where bodies rest, where people sleep in the midst of life, despite the discomforts that accompany it. The pillow, too, is a modest affair. It is filled with straw or wool, depending on what one can afford. There are no fluffy down pillows here. The pillow is compact, firm, offering minimal comfort, but enough to keep the head propped up through the night. The wealthier, of course, might have feather pillows, but for most, it is simply a necessary piece of the bed, serving more to provide support than luxury. The linen pillowcase, though regularly cleaned, still holds the scent of its owner, their sweat, their oil, the scent of the everyday life they lead. It is a faint trace, but it is present nonetheless. The bed is not just a place for sleep, it is a place of ritual. Each night, the bed is prepared, the layers carefully arranged, the linen sheets are smoothed, the wool blankets unrolled, the straw mattress fluffed up again. In wealthier homes, there might be a layer of velvet or fine wool, but for most, it is simply wool, thick and heavy, though rough on the skin. There might be a fur pelt or two for warmth in the winter months, the soft, comforting feel of animal skins offering protection against the bitter cold that can creep into a room with only a small fire and no other source of heat. The bed is not something that can be just thrown together. It requires attention. The wool blankets, thick and scratchy, are a staple. These blankets are well worn, their edges frayed from years of use, but they are valued for the warmth they provide, and warmth is everything in a medieval home. Without it, the cold stone of the floor would become unbearable. Without the wool and the heavy linens, the night would be unbearable. The bed is a practical space. It doesn't strive for beauty or luxury, but for the simplicity of function. The feeling of the bed, once it is fully made, is heavy, pressing down on the body. The weight of the blankets, the layers of linen and wool, pulls at the sleeper, wrapping them in warmth. The palliasse gives a firm, flat base for the sleeper to rest upon, but the body is never fully cradled. The bed is not designed to pamper. It's meant for a night's sleep, nothing more. But there is a comfort to it, a sense of familiarity, of knowing exactly how it feels, of sinking into its layers at the end of a long day. In the early hours of the night, as the candle flickers and the fire burns low, the bed becomes a place of rest. It is not a place of luxury or ease, but it is a place where the body can lie, where the weight of the world can rest, even if only for a few hours. The palliasse shifts slightly under the weight of the sleeper, the straw settling with the movement. The wool blankets, heavy and warm, settle around the body. The pillow, filled with straw or wool, offers just enough comfort to rest the head. There is no fluff, no softness, but there is warmth, there is weight, and there is the knowledge that tomorrow will come, and another night of rest will follow. Bed is, in many ways, the heart of the room, the heart of the home. It is where people sleep, where they rest, where they are at their most vulnerable. It is a place of comfort, but not indulgence, a place where the familiar weight of the blankets is the closest thing to security. It is not a bed to pamper, it is a bed to endure. It is real, in the truest sense. And yet, despite all of this, the bed feels inviting in its own way. After a long day, as the fire begins to die and the room grows darker, the bed offers a quiet, heavy invitation. It is not a place of luxury, but a place of warmth, a place of rest, and that is enough. The bed is made layer upon layer, a weighted cocoon of warmth and simplicity. It is heavy. The sheets are the first layer, linen that has been washed more often than the palliasse beneath, though not nearly as often as one might imagine today. The linen is not smooth or crisp, but soft from repeated use, a little worn along the edges where it has been folded countless times. The smell of the linen is not unpleasant, but is unmistakable. The scent of a body, of sweat, of work, of sleep. It is a personal smell, the one that follows the sleeper and settles into the fibers of the sheets. In the damp of the room, the linen smells faintly of earth, mingled with the slight musty scent of the straw mattress beneath. The wool blankets are next, rough and heavy. They are not dyed in bright colours, but in earthy tones, shades of brown and grey, some even unprocessed and left in their natural raw state. Wool was a practical choice, warm, durable, and inexpensive. These blankets are made for use, not beauty. They have been in use for years, perhaps decades, worn thin in places from constant folding and washing. They are not soft like modern blankets. They are scratchy, coarse, a reminder of the harshness of medieval life. But they are warm. The weight of the blankets is the key to their value. Wool when wrapped around the body, holds warmth close to the skin, trapping it against the cold stone of the floor. Without these blankets, the stone beneath the bed would be unbearable at night. These woolen layers come with their own set of smells. The faintest trace of lanolin, the natural oil found in wool. It smells like the animals that provided it, like the raw, natural world of the medieval countryside. It smells earthy, almost grassy, a scent that grounds you in the simple, unpretentious nature of the bed. The wool blankets, though scratchy to the touch, offer a unique kind of comfort. The feeling of the wool against the skin is rough, but it creates a kind of insulation, trapping warmth between layers, keeping the sleeper safe from the cold. Some families, particularly those living in colder regions or wealthier homes, might add an extra layer, animal skins, sheepskin or rabbit fur perhaps, are laid on top of the wool. These fur-lined blankets are soft compared to the wool, their natural softness offering a momentary respite from the harshness of the rough wool beneath. But even this layer, warm and soft as it is, brings with it a reminder of the medieval world. It smells faintly of animal, of the life of the creature that provided it. The fur is soft and comforting, but it carries the scent of the outdoors with it, the smell of animals, of life lived in the open. In winter, these layers are necessary. The cold of the stone room is relentless, and without the weight of these blankets and the warmth they provide, the bed would be a place of misery rather than rest. The wool and the fur offer an insulation against the chill that permeates the stone walls. The blankets settle around the body, pressing down, wrapping you in their warmth, their weight, like a thick protective cocoon. And in this cocoon, sleep can come. The weight of the blankets is comforting, pressing down with a gentle insistence, urging the sleeper into a state of rest, into the quiet darkness of the night. The next layer is often the saras, a word used to describe the additional layers used to protect from the cold. These could be made from thick wool, or sometimes even the leftover skins of animals. Any material that would provide a bit more warmth during the colder months. These layers are not luxurious. They are utilitarian. The saras are simple, often worn from years of use, their edges frayed, the fabric faded from the many hands that have folded and adjusted them over time. But, like the wool, they are a practical necessity. They offer warmth, they trap body heat, and they help to create a more comfortable sleeping space in an otherwise chilly room. The final layer, perhaps the most personal and intimate of all, is the coverlet, the quilted blanket that finishes off the bed. It is often made from scraps of fabric sewn together by the hands of those who sleep beneath it. These coverlets might be patched and worn, and their patterns are often simple, stripes or squares made from the leftover materials of the household. They are not works of art, but they are functional, just like everything else in the bed. The coverlet is the final piece that holds everything together, the weight of the fabric pressing down on the sleeper, wrapping them in warmth. It is a reminder that sleep in the medieval world was never a simple, carefree thing. It was a practical necessity, a way of enduring the night, of surviving until morning. The layers, as they settle over the sleeper, are heavy. The weight of the blankets, the wool, the fur, and the coverlet presses down, holding the body in place, keeping warmth close. The weight is comforting. There is no lightness in the bed. There is only the realness of it, the weight of its fabric, the warmth of its layers, the straw palliasse beneath, the wool blankets, the roughness of the linen. They are all part of the same whole. A bed built for rest, built for warmth, and built for survival. And yet, despite the roughness, despite the heaviness, the bed is comforting. The weight of the layers brings a sense of security, the sense that the world outside, the cold stone, the dark night, are kept at bay by the simple, sturdy layers of the bed. The wool, the linen, the fur. They wrap the sleeper in a protective embrace, offering warmth, comfort, and a sense of home. As the bed settles into place, the weight of the blankets and sheets presses down. The room grows quieter, and the fire begins to burn low. The smell of tallow lingers in the air, mixing with the earthy scents of the bedding. The room is still, calm, ready for the night ahead. The layers of the bed are not luxurious, but they are necessary. They are a testament to the simple, enduring nature of sleep in the medieval world. Each layer, each piece of fabric, has its own story, its own history, and together they form a bed that is more than just a place to rest. It is a place where warmth is gathered, where the body is protected, and where the sleeper can rest, not in comfort, but in the quiet knowledge that they are safe and warm. The bed is set, the layers heavy and warm, but it is not empty. In medieval times, the concept of privacy in sleep was a foreign idea. The bed, though personal in the sense that it was where one rested, was shared by many. A family would often sleep together in one bed, sometimes 2 or 3 generations, each one finding their place in the pile of wool blankets. It was a necessary arrangement, dictated by the cold and the space constraints of the home. The warmth of the bed was something to be shared, and bodies pressed together in the dark for survival. Privacy in sleep, as we understand it today, was a luxury that simply didn't exist for the medieval peasant. The parents would sleep at the center, their bodies the first to find warmth in the bed, while the children would press against them, seeking the heat their parents offered. Often, the eldest child might sleep closest to the parents, offering a degree of protection, while younger children, depending on their age, might sleep on the outside, where the drafts might find their way in through the cracks in the walls or the shutters. If the family was particularly large, some of the younger children might sleep at the foot of the bed, tucked into the foot of the covers, their presence barely felt except for the occasional movement beneath the wool. There was a rhythm to the way they slept together, an unspoken understanding of who would be where. Each person knew their place. It wasn't a question of comfort. It was a matter of necessity. The bed might feel crowded, but the bodies pressed close together provided something far more valuable than space: warmth. As the night drew in and the chill of the room crept through the walls, the collective body heat kept the group insulated against the cold. A person on their own would feel the full weight of the cold stone beneath them, but when shared, the warmth of others was a small, comforting reprieve. In wealthier homes, where space permitted, there might be a servant who slept at the foot of the bed, or even a servant's bed placed beside the main one. These beds, though separate, were still close, the servant lying near the master's, a reminder of the hierarchy that remained even in the shared space of the bedroom. The servant's bed might be a low trundle bed that slid beneath the larger bed during the day, emerging only at night to offer a place to rest after a long day of work. The presence of the servant at the foot of the bed wasn't intrusive. It was simply part of the social order. Just as the family shared their space, so too did the servants. The boundaries between classes, though often stark in other areas of life, softened in the space of sleep. In inns or taverns where travellers often found themselves sharing a bed with strangers, this shared sleeping arrangement was even more common. The bed was not a private refuge. It was a place for rest, a place to find warmth, even if that meant lying beside someone you had never met. When people travelled long distances by foot or on horseback, an inn might be the only place to find rest. There, guests would be assigned to beds by the innkeeper, who would expect that a traveller would not object to sharing with someone else. In many cases, this was simply the only way to find a place to sleep. The concept of privacy in the bedroom, or of sleeping alone, simply didn't exist for most people. There is a quiet intimacy to this shared sleep, though it is not one that modern eyes may immediately recognize. The discomforts are there, to be sure, the cramped quarters, the inevitable shifting of bodies in the night. But there is also a deep sense of solidarity. People who sleep in close quarters like this know each other in ways that go beyond the physical. They share warmth, they share space, and they share a sense of survival. The act of sleeping together is not something that is questioned, not something that requires explanation. It is simply how the world works. The closeness of the bodies, the shared warmth, is a way of facing the night together, of enduring the cold, of finding comfort in each other's presence. Sometimes there might be an older person in the bed, a grandparent or an elderly relative who has no place to go, who might sleep between the parents and children. These figures, often placed in the middle, might offer a certain comfort. Their frailty, their age, became part of the fabric of the bed itself. They too added their warmth to the pile. The elderly too were part of the shared experience of sleep. Their presence was not a burden, but a natural part of family life. They were the older generation, the keepers of stories and wisdom, but also the ones who needed the warmth most. Despite the crowding, despite the lack of privacy, the shared bed offered a certain peace. The absence of private space in the medieval bedroom might seem strange to modern sensibilities, but for those who lived in this world, it was simply part of life. There was no loneliness here, no isolation, only the warmth of those who slept beside you. The room, though small and often crowded, was filled with the quiet hum of life. The space on the bed was filled, then, by the quiet hum of breathing. The movement of bodies beneath the covers was a rhythm, shifting, adjusting, finding a comfortable position. The bed creaked under the collective weight of the family, and the air, thick with the scent of straw and wool, felt even warmer as the bodies huddled closer together. The space was not cramped in a way that felt wrong, but in a way that made sense. This was the way the world worked. As the night deepens and the last traces of daylight fade, the bodies settle. The small shifts of movement, the brief whispers of someone adjusting their position, give way to stillness. The warmth of the body heat lingers, and the bodies find their place in the night. The bed, though full, becomes a place of rest, a place of security in the cool air of the night. It is not empty, but it is calm. Each sleeper finding their own rhythm in the stillness of the bed is not alone in the night. It shares its space with creatures that live there just as surely as the sleepers themselves. Insects, small and persistent, have found their place in the mattress, in the rushes, and even in the folds of the blankets. These creatures are not feared or thought of as pests in the way we would think today. They are simply part of the world. Fleas, lice, and bedbugs live in the bed as much as the people do. They have their own lives to lead, crawling and shifting as the night goes on. Fleas are the most common of these creatures, ubiquitous in the medieval world. They live in the straw of the mattress, hidden away in the folds of the blankets. They are small, and they are everywhere. Medieval medical texts talk about them as a normal part of life. There are even instructions on how to manage them, usually by using herbs like lavender, wormwood, and pennyroyal. People would scatter these herbs into the bedding to try and ward off the fleas, but they could never truly eliminate them. Fleas were a part of the world, and that was just the way it was. The scratching, too, was part of life. A small itch here, a brief moment of discomfort there. Nothing alarming, just the usual. People would scratch themselves in their sleep, not because it was unusual, but because it was expected. Fleas, it seemed, were just another feature of the night. There was no panic, no great alarm about them. They were part of the fabric of the medieval world. The medieval mindset did not distinguish between a person and their parasites. It was simply a part of life. The fleas, of course, had no opinion on any of this. Lice, too, made their home in the hair and clothing fibers of the medieval world. Unlike the fleas, which moved with the sleeper, lice tended to stay in the hair or in the folds of clothing. They were a constant presence, an accepted companion. Families would comb their hair for nits, especially after a long day of work, and the act of delousing was a social one. It wasn't done in private, but often in the company of others. People would sit together and help each other remove the lice, a small but meaningful ritual of care. The lice were not something to be feared, just something to be managed. Then there were the bedbugs. These small creatures, known by several different names in medieval texts, were a nuisance, but not a source of great distress. Their bites were familiar. They were present in the bed, feeding on the warmth of the sleepers. Bedbugs, like fleas, were simply a part of life. People didn't try to eradicate them. They simply worked around them. There were some efforts to reduce their numbers, like sprinkling herbs into the bedding or changing the rushes on the floor regularly, but the bedbugs always returned. They were part of the night, and the night was a place where creatures lived. In addition to these smaller creatures, there were occasional larger visitors. Mice, for instance, were common in medieval homes. They might find their way into the bedding, seeking warmth or crumbs that had been dropped in the night. Mice, like the fleas, lice, and bedbugs, were simply part of the life of the house. They were not unwelcome, but neither were they fully accepted. They too lived their lives alongside the people, moving in the dark, feeding when they could, and slipping away when the light returned. Rats, though, were a rarer presence. They were more common in rural areas, especially during times when food might be left uncovered for too long. A rat could become a problem, but it was not something that would be unexpected. In many cases, a cat, the natural predator of mice and rats, would sleep at the foot of the bed, keeping an eye on things and offering a form of protection from the creatures that scuttled in the night. The cat, though, was not the master of the bed. It was another presence, another creature living alongside the humans, content with its place in the hierarchy of the room. The night itself is quiet now, save for the soft movements of the creatures as they go about their lives. The fleas move in the mattress, the bedbugs shift in the shadows of the blankets, and the mice nibble on the scraps in the corners. The cat, curled at the foot of the bed, occasionally stirs, but the night is otherwise still. The fire has burned down to embers, the tallow candle long since snuffed out, and the room is draped in darkness. The creatures are small, insignificant in the grand scheme of things. They are no threat, no terror. They are simply part of the night, living their small lives as the humans do. It's a calm existence, almost peaceful. The creatures do not bother the sleepers. The fleas, lice, and bedbugs are part of the rhythm of the night, part of the quiet hum of life that fills the room. The scratching comes and goes. The small sounds of movement are barely heard, and the night continues on, as it always has. The creatures do not have names in the way the people do, but they have their own existence, just as valid, just as real. Their lives are as small as the people's are, and their presence is as accepted. The night drifts on. The warmth of the bed, the weight of the blankets, the presence of the creatures, they all mix together in the stillness of the room. There is no panic, no fear, only the soft movements of the small creatures, the occasional rustle of the straw, the distant sound of a mouse. The cat shifts at the foot of the bed, a quiet, instinctual movement. All is as it should be, and as the room grows even darker, the creatures go quiet for now, leaving the sleepers undisturbed in the warmth of their heavy blankets. The world outside might be cold and full of danger, but in here, in this room, the night continues, just as it always has. The creatures have found their place, and the people have found theirs. The room grows stiller now, the first faint signs of sleep creeping over the room. As the light fades and the last trace of the tallow candle disappears, the ritual of preparing for bed begins. The air is thick with the scent of the extinguished flame, animal fat, smoke, and the faintest trace of sweetness lingering in the cold room. The rituals that surround sleep are not rushed, not hurried. Everything happens slowly, methodically, each action performed with intention, as if it were a sacred part of the night. The night itself begins its slow embrace. First, the ritual of undressing. The clothes are carefully removed, layer by layer, as though each garment is important, each one worthy of attention. The outer garments are folded with care, placed neatly beside the bed, to be put back on at dawn. The modern convenience of simply tossing clothes aside does not exist here. Clothes are expensive, and they must last. They are treasured, and every act around them is deliberate. No piece of clothing is left on the floor. Everything is folded or hung with purpose. It is not done in a rush. The quiet of the room welcomes this deliberate pace. Once the outer garments are removed, the shift or nightshirt is put on. For most, it is a simple linen shift, worn for warmth and comfort, though in the colder months, many might sleep fully clothed in their day garments, wrapping themselves in the layers of wool, the layers of protection. The act of undressing is not one of privacy, but of preparing, a quiet acknowledgement that the day has ended and the ritual of rest has begun. The chamber pot is brought out from under the bed or from its corner alcove. It is ceramic or sometimes wood, a necessary part of life for those who cannot venture out into the cold and dark of the night. The act is not spoken of, but it is part of the rhythm of the room. The chamber pot is set aside when its use is finished, and it will be emptied come morning. The room, which has smelled of damp straw and tallow, now takes on another layer, the faint scent of earth. It is a quiet, unremarkable act, but one that speaks to the needs of the night. The world outside is too cold, too dark for such matters, and so it is handled here, in the privacy of the bed. There is also the garderobe, which, though more common in wealthier households, provides another place to store clothing. The garderobe, often built over a stone shaft or pit, is a small stone closet adjacent to the bedroom. It is used to store clothing, not because it is the most convenient space, but because the ammonia in the air from the pit below helps keep moths away. This too is part of the medieval way of life. Clothing must be cared for, cherished, kept safe. The final act before sleep falls is the snuffing of the candle. The flame is extinguished with a quiet, deliberate motion. The tallow candle has been burning for hours, and its usefulness has now come to an end. The smell of the extinguished flame lingers for a moment longer in the air, faint, warm, and animal. The room becomes darker as the last light of the candle vanishes. The darkness that fills the room is absolute. It is a dark that has weight, a darkness that feels like a blanket itself. The world outside is as dark as the room, and inside the dark is absolute. The shutters, which have been keeping the cold and the dark outside, are now closed. The room, already dark, becomes still, quiet. The small sounds of the house outside the room, the distant crackling of the fire, the soft murmurs of those sleeping in the hall below, fade away, leaving only the sound of breathing. The room becomes a space of complete stillness, a moment where the day is fully gone. The only sound now is the soft rustle of the blankets, the slight shifting of bodies, the settling of the mattress as people find their place. The air feels heavy now, thick with the warmth of the bodies and the absence of light. The last of the warmth from the tallow candle mixes with the warmth from the bed, and the room seems to exhale, slowing into the quiet of night. The dog, if it is present, has found its spot, and the hearth has settled into silence below. Everything has its place in the night ritual. Everything is as it should be. The moment is quiet, almost sacred. It is a small, unhurried ritual. The body undresses, the room settles, the fire fades, and the night embraces the room, wrapping it in darkness. The final flicker of the candle is gone, and the world outside remains just that. Outside, beyond the shutters, beyond the stillness of the room. The candle has gone out, and with it, the last traces of light. The room is now just the weight of blankets, the cool air beyond the walls, and the people who rest beneath them. The night has begun. The first sleep arrives with the quiet heaviness of night, slipping into the room as the last embers of the fire fade into darkness. The world outside is now a distant, unreachable place. Inside, the bed is a cocoon of warmth, the weight of the blankets pressing gently against the sleepers, the woolen layers comforting, familiar. As the bodies settle into their places, the house grows still, quiet, as though the world itself has drawn a deep breath and begun to rest. The first sleep does not come suddenly. It is not a forceful arrival. It slips in slowly, creeping through the darkness, seeping into the room like the cool night air that finds its way in through the cracks in the shutters. The first sleep is heavy, deep. The body sinks into it with a sense of relief, of release. It is not the restless, uneasy sleep of worry or anxiety. It is a sleep built from the rhythms of the day, a sleep that comes naturally, without thought. The weight of the blankets, the warmth of the bodies, pressed close together, all contribute to this quiet, unhurried descent. Outside, the world is dark and silent. The moon, when visible, might offer a faint glow through the shutters, but the room is mostly without light, without sound, save for the occasional rustle of blankets, the soft breathing of those already asleep. The first sleep is thick, a kind of sleep that fills the body and the mind. It is not interrupted by the thoughts of the day or worries about the future. The first sleep is pure rest, a pause before the inevitable second sleep that will follow. The room itself is heavy with the quiet of the night. The smell of tallow and damp straw still lingers, but it is not overpowering now. The world outside is silent, and even the creatures that live in the bed, the fleas, the lice, the mice, seem to settle for the time being. The night is their time as well, a quiet existence alongside the humans who share the space. The dog, if it is present, has already found its place at the foot of the bed. It might shift now and then, but for the most part, it remains still, its breathing slow and steady, matching the rhythm of the humans. The hearth below, though dim, still glows faintly, the last warmth of the fire creeping into the room. But it is fading now too, leaving behind only the faint scent of smoke. In the quiet of the room, the first sleep wraps its heavy arms around the sleepers, urging them into the deeper rest of the night. The body does not stir, except for the occasional small movement, the slight shifting of position. The weight of the blankets is steady, comforting, and the mattress, though filled with straw and worn from years of use, holds its shape, providing just enough support to let the body rest. The first sleep does not ask for much. It does not demand anything other than the body's surrender to the night, a surrender that is slow and complete. The occasional creak of the bed frame, the subtle sounds of shifting bodies are the only disturbances in the otherwise perfect stillness. But these sounds are not disruptions. They are part of the rhythm of sleep, part of the way the night moves. The room, though full of life in its own quiet way, has taken on a weight of stillness now, the weight of sleep. The first sleep is a heavy, thick thing, full of the quiet of the body, full of the warmth that comes from shared space. Outside, the world continues on, though it feels far away. The night is dark, and the world beyond the room is lost in shadow. The house itself has settled, every creak and groan of the walls and floorboards now familiar, now part of the background of sleep. The house has no need for light. It does not need the world beyond to be visible. The night exists inside the room now, wrapped in the warmth of the blankets and the quiet of the sleepers. The first sleep is not quiet because there is nothing happening. It is quiet because everything is happening at once. The body sleeps, the mind rests, and the creatures who share the space go about their own quiet lives. The world outside may still be awake, but inside, in this small room, everything is calm. Everything is still. The room grows deeper into the dark. The smell of the tallow is fading. The last traces of light from the fire extinguished. The world, as it was before, no longer matters. The night is simply the act of sleep now, and it is thick with the weight of it, the certainty that the first sleep has come, and soon the second will follow. But for now, it is only the stillness, the warmth, the body sinking into its rest. The first sleep has settled. The room is still. The world is quiet. The room is deep in the quiet now. The night has settled fully, and nothing stirs, except for the soft, even breathing of those who sleep. The warmth of the blankets presses down on the bodies, the layers heavy and real, holding the sleepers close. The room itself seems to exhale, sinking deeper into its stillness. Outside, the cold of the night is distant, muffled by the thick walls of the house and the warmth contained within the room. Inside, there is nothing but the stillness, the calm, the deep peace of the night. The bed creaks slightly as someone shifts, the soft rustle of blankets the only sound to disturb the stillness. But even this sound feels natural, like part of the rhythm of the night. The room, otherwise, is without movement. It is a place frozen in time. The sound of breathing fills the air, each breath a soft and steady reminder that life continues, even in sleep. It is slow, gentle, quiet. The air, thick with the smells of tallow, damp straw, and the lingering scent of wool, feels heavier now. The scent of the room has settled, and though the faint trace of animal fat still lingers in the air, it is now a part of the room, woven into its stillness. The slight trace of smoke from the extinguished candle mixes with the warmth of the bed, the scent of life in the room. These smells are familiar now, a constant presence in the background, soft and undemanding. The world outside the room feels far away, beyond reach. The sounds of the night, the distant howling of a dog, the occasional call of a bird, are lost. The world outside is as still as the room. Inside, the only sounds are the quiet movements of the sleepers, the soft exhale of breath. There is no rush. There is no hurry. The world has slowed, and everything feels suspended in this moment of absolute quiet. The creatures that share the bed, the fleas, the lice, the mice, have settled for the time being. They go about their small, unhurried lives, unnoticed by the sleepers. The faintest rustle of movement might be heard, but it's far from alarming. These creatures, like the sleepers themselves, are part of the night's rhythm, living quietly in the background. The fleas have found their place in the mattress, the lice have settled in their hair, and the mice, hidden in the shadows, nibble at the remnants of the day. They are small, insignificant, but they, too, are a part of the world at rest. The bed, the room, the world outside, everything is quiet. The darkness is complete now. It wraps the room in a cocoon of stillness. The shutters, tight against the cold, block out the light. The fire in the hearth is nothing but a memory now, its warmth faded. The only heat remaining is the one generated by the bodies in the bed. It is a quiet, heavy warmth, an anchor in the night. The bed itself feels deeper now, heavier with the weight of the night. The blankets, now settled in their place, press gently on the sleepers. The palliasse beneath them, though, worn, offers its steady support. The straw, the wool, the linen, all of it is a part of the night, part of the weight of the world in this small room. The layers of fabric and the layers of sleep blend together, forming a single, quiet whole. The body rests, the mind drifts, and the night stretches out before them, stretching and stretching, until there is nothing left but the stillness. The sounds of the night, so faint now, are the last echoes of the world outside. A creak in the walls, the soft flutter of a mouse, the distant bark of a dog. All of it fades into the background. The room has become a place of absolute peace. The smell of the tallow candle is almost gone, leaving only the last trace of animal fat in the cold air. It's barely noticeable, almost imperceptible. The world outside is cold, but the room remains warm, sheltered, and still. The stone walls have kept the cold at bay, and the bodies in the bed, nestled together, continue their slow, steady rhythm. The warmth is now shared, each person contributing to the collective comfort. The bed, heavy with its layers, feels safe now, a protective weight in the darkness. The creatures are quiet. The humans are still. The room is still. The night is as deep as it can be. The darkness is complete. The world is at rest. The stillness is perfect now, an unbroken silence that wraps itself around the room, around the sleepers, around the creatures, around the night. Everything is in its place. Everything is quiet. The room is as still as it has ever been. The warmth from the bodies beneath the blankets lingers, but it is beginning to fade. The heat of the night has slowly dissipated, leaving the bed a quiet, even place. The body heat has faded into the straw mattress. The wool blankets no longer shifting, no longer disturbed. The faintest warmth from the body, once pressed close under layers of fabric, has quietly become part of the bed itself, melting away into the dark of the room. The smell of tallow, once strong and heavy in the air, now only lingers faintly. The candle's light has been gone for hours, but the faint trace of animal fat and wax lingers still, though so subtly now it is nearly imperceptible. It mixes with the scent of damp straw, the coolness that has started creeping into the room now that the fire has long since faded. But it is not overwhelming. It is only a soft echo of what was there before. The room itself, like the night, holds its breath. It has become a place of rest, of peace, of stillness. Its only occupants now the quiet remnants of the day. The straw mattress, though heavy and dense from the weight of the night's rest, is perfectly still. The straw is no longer shifting beneath the bodies, no longer making its quiet, dry, rustling sounds with every movement. It is settled, compacted. It is a bed at rest. The blankets, too, are quiet, undisturbed. The wool, once thick and heavy, now rests in place, still pressed down from the warmth of bodies that have long since settled into the rhythms of sleep. The weight of it all, the blankets, the straw, the mattress, the body heat that once pressed it all into place, is now simply a quiet part of the night, the bed holding a soft, steady silence. The creatures, small and unnoticed, are still at their work, The fleas, which had once danced across the skin, now remain in the mattress, unhurried, quietly living their own small lives. The lice, too, are still resting in their hiding places. They have no need to move, for the world is quiet, and the bodies they once shared their space with have become still. The mice, perhaps the most active of the small creatures, are quiet now too. There is no scuttling in the darkness, no nibbling at crumbs. Even the cat, curled at the foot of the bed, has ceased its gentle movements. It rests, the rise and fall of its chest as slow and rhythmic as the breathing of its owners.